So I will share my screen and show you some of that story, and we will illustrate it as we go along. So since we started in Colombia, in just 3 years, we have achieved 1.5 million meters squared or certified green homes. There's other commercial properties, but we're going to focus on homes today. You can see here the incredible growth year after year. We have been more than doubling the certified residential stock over the course of the 3 years, every year, and we expect to continue with this trend. We have had successes in other sectors, but the residential sector is where the transformation is quite breathtaking. Other successes include government incentive for green buildings, differentiated financial products for green construction and green mortgages, and training of many technical experts who are able to offer solutions to developers. We do believe that we can replicate these results in other countries as well, and we do invite you to work with us. And here's how it has taken place. The market transformation, and we do feel comfortable calling it that, has been a combination of partnerships and of incentives set up by both investors and governments. IFC learned many years ago that a true market transformation of the construction sector requires working with all the stakeholders across the value chain. The market is complex. There's an asymmetry of information between investors, builders, and buyers. They each have a piece of the story, but the concept of green value was not easily transferred between each. Our first step was to establish a partnership with the Colombian Chamber of Construction, Camacol. They help with training, education, and marketing of the green value proposition. We launched our Edge software, which is available for free, and lets developers understand the incremental costs needed to reach green certification as well as utility cost savings. Edge serves as both a financial decision-making tool as well as an environmental tool. Then the local banks started issuing incentives in the market. The banks saw these incentives as an important investment into launching a new program, but they have reported great return on investment through volume of projects, market share, and expanding the program into other countries. At the same time, the national government offers VAT exclusion and income tax deduction for technical measures. So let's do a deep dive into these incentives. This is the incentive offered by Bancolombia. They're the largest commercial bank in Colombia, and they realized the business value of green construction and decided to grow the portfolio. The bank issued a pair of green bonds, which is a rapidly growing financial instrument with lots of potential. IFC has partnered with other institutions in the green bond space, and we do have education in this on our Edge YouTube page. Bancolombia's green bond was the very first one in the country, and we see that in other parts of the world, like in Kenya and Namibia, where the very first green bond actually went to green buildings, not to renewables, not to industrial energy efficiency, but to green buildings. To build a pipeline of green properties to finance, Bancolombia did outreach to developers and then offered financial incentives to both developers and home buyers. Up to 2% less for construction finance and 65 basis points for green mortgages. So you may ask, why did the bank do this? Aren't they losing money? And the answer from us is no. Bancolombia told us that access to a diversified bond market and cheaper capital is key to their strategy to profitably build a portfolio of green assets. They see green buildings as a less risky investment, which will give them access to international finance. And they view this initial incentive as a very valuable incentive, which has brought them greater market share and international exposure. We do have training for you if you're a bank to walk you through all of the steps of launching a green program, from incentives and education, through technical expertise, all the way to impact reporting. And we invite you to reach out to us and work with us on this particular case. Go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yes, Rusmir, I have a question. This is very clear. Thank you very much. Nevertheless, I have a little question here. because I was wondering if I'm in the shoes of this country, I would wonder, so what is first? Is it the country, so the state, the government who starts to give incentives, or is it the banks, or is it the private sector that demands such a program? How does it start normally?
I would say if our advice is whoever's the right champion. So rather than thinking it top down, there are certain things that have to be aligned and move it. What we really need is somebody who's going to champion this cause, who believes that green buildings are a more profitable investment, whether on the government side or on the private sector side, and then helps us put together programs and incentives. In many of our cases, we are able to certify buildings even without incentives because people can internalize that return on investment pretty easily because EDGE is a quantifiable tool that leads. So rather than needing kind of everything to put together, what we really need is the right champion to help us put things through.
Okay, thanks a lot, Rusmir. And you also prepared an overview of other incentives, and I would like to ask you to hold that back a little, because I would want to dive into that a little later, deeper, and I will ask you to show the slide maybe later on. Before we go into other incentives, I would like to have a view again on our little country, because now we said, well, there is a lot of need for new construction. But, you know, in our little country, and maybe we can see our image of the country, in our little country, there is also a building stock, existing building stock, that is in a very bad situation. It is shabby, it is energy consuming heavily, and this, of course, screams for renovation fund. And we have many countries indeed with building stock that is not renovated, that is old, 50, 60, 70 years old. Maybe even after 30 years it needs renovation, because we have much better technology now, and because we know that energy consumption of old buildings that are in bad shape is a huge burden for the country. And here I would like to ask our next guest, Julia Holovaciuk. Welcome. I saw that you could join. And it is a very special example, and I think a very, very good example. It is an example of an energy efficiency fund from Ukraine. And this fund will be presented by Julia now. And maybe, Julia, before you show us your slides and you show the technicalities of the fund, I want to ask you, how did it all come to the point that the fund was set up? Why was there even talk about setting up such a fund? What was the circumstance in Ukraine, and is maybe still the circumstance in Ukraine? Why did you need such a fund? Maybe you could explain that. And very warm welcome to you to our event, to our webinar, Julia. I can see a gray window, but I cannot hear you. Can you hear me? I can see the slides, yes. Mm-hmm. The sound is not here. Can anybody hear it? Maybe it's just me.
Julia, I think you need to unmute. I just unmuted you. It should work now if you try to speak.
Yes, I think you're here.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes, it's not Julia, it's maybe Vyacheslav.
Yes. Sorry for technical problems. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Vyacheslav Koval. I am CFO of Energy Efficiency Fund. So I started work with the fund from the very beginning, and is a member of directors team comprised of three professional. First of all, our director, Yulia Galotyuk-Unguriano, technical director, Yegor, sorry. Yegor Farenyuk, and me, Vyacheslav Koval. First of all, what was the main need of such kind of a fund for Ukraine? Probably you know that Ukraine is an ex-Soviet Union country, which received independence in 1991. So it's received together with the independence, the whole heritage of the Soviet-style problems. So means the energy efficiency in the Soviet Union was not the first focus at that time. And what we have right now, so in Ukraine, according to different estimations, approximately 200,000 of multi-flat buildings, which significant part of these buildings were built during the building boom in Soviet Union during 60s and 70s years last century. That's why at present, approximately 94% of such kind of buildings needs renovation. And it's a significant, it's a really significant number. And according to the international agreements of government of Ukraine and European Union, there were two agreements. It was decided to start a program of introduction of the energy efficiency measures for the residential sector of Ukraine. This, next slide. This project was started not by Cabinet of Minister of Ukraine only, but with a significant participation and support of international donors and international institutions. The part of the Energy Efficiency Fund, I would describe the currently Cabinet Minister of Ukraine or State of Ukraine is the ultimate owner and ultimate shareholder of the Energy Efficiency Fund. Supervisory Board of Energy Efficiency Fund comprises of 5 members. 2 are representatives from Cabinet of Ministry of Ukraine. 1 board member is a representative of European Union and government of Germany, who are donors of the multi-donors trust fund. And 2 independent members are selected from candidates who applied for such kind of positions, and currently For example, head of supervisory board of our fund is Andrzej Rajkiewicz, who was head of practically the same institution in Poland and have extensive experience in introduction of energy efficiency measures in Poland, especially for the Soviet styles buildings. So currently fund what we see, we started our operation, as I told you, in cooperation with IFC, which is a manager of multi-donors trust fund, and with support of GIZ and programs of United Nations Development Program. We are focusing on home owners associations in Ukraine. The total number of home owners association in Ukraine currently slightly higher than 30,000. It's a quite new institution for Ukraine and not very actively owners of buildings or flats starting to create such kind of association. So, and in the future, we would see the increase in such area, especially with the support of the United Nations Development Program, which is focusing on the creation of such kind of association. We are
Vyacheslav?
Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt you. I did the same with Rusmir. You just mentioned the homeowners associations, and I think in a later slide you mentioned cooperation with cities. May I ask an intermediate question, because this seems to be a very key success factor, that you have cooperation with cities. Is that correct? And if so, could you maybe explain a little bit? I think it is 2 slides further when you discuss, here.
Yeah.
Could you explain that? I think this is very relevant.
Yeah. So, if you would have some questions related to the previous slides, I would be ready to reply to you. So, currently, we are focusing on our cooperation with the cities. According to our strategy, it's one of the very important and key factor for the success. Because of lack of experience of majority of homeowners association within Ukraine, and not very favorable markets, financial markets and construction markets within Ukraine. So we see the cooperation with the cities and municipalities would be one of the success factors. Currently, in what respect? Currently, we are focusing on the cooperation with local municipalities. And currently, we have signed already more than 100 of memorandums with municipalities. And this memorandum focus and aiming for the providing local support programs for the homeowners association to support them during the implementation of energy efficiency projects, because we have two type of projects. It's a comprehensive and light. So majority of home owners association has no, first of all, such kind of experience. On the other hand, they are facing the lack of financing resources to proceed with such kind of projects. So, and in this respect, the contribution from local municipalities in form of, for example, compensation of interest rates, first of all, participation in financing of such projects would be highly appreciated from side, not only from side of the end beneficiaries like owners association, but from our side also. Currently, we also relying on such kind of cooperation like local programs. These local programs can, first of all, support our program. It's allowed according to the grant policy issued by our donors, and these local programs developed to support home owners association in providing the implementations. And in this respect, Energy Efficiency Fund supporting local municipalities in the process of development of such kind of programs.
Vyacheslav?
Yeah.
I think you brought some very nice examples from Lviv region, but also from other regions. I think this would be very interesting for our audience, but may I ask you to spare the examples for a little later, because you mentioned a word where I want to pick up now. You said the donors, and this I imagine means the source of money. And maybe if you allow me, we would talk a bit more about the source of money. Where does money come from? And I would like to invite you a little later to present the examples from the regions that you brought with us. But let me please go a little bit deeper into the question, where could money come from? Because when we have a country, again, back to our little country, and maybe Anna, you could show again our slides, our images of the country. You know, we have a country that is in an economic crisis. It doesn't have a lot of financial resources, and I guess this was also the fact in Ukraine. And it has a renovation problem because the building stock is in a bad shape. It needs to build new buildings. So the question is, where does money come from to stimulate the construction or the renovation of good buildings with energy efficiency criteria? So this we want to go into and have a look at banks. And more specifically, you see in this little image, the bank and the person that obviously has not enough money. Yeah. So it needs the services of banks. Here I would like to invite José Lopez from the French Development Bank, AFD, to give us a little bit of an insight of the role of banks, of specifically development banks, because there is a lot of financing power in these banks, and what AFD is currently doing, it is trying to convince a lot of banks to earmark all their financing in the building sector, to earmark it with energy efficiency criteria. So this would be a really big envelope of financing that could go to also to our little country, to use it as a stimulus. So I would like to welcome José Lopez from the AFD. Could you give us a little inside view on development banks and also the view how development banks could play a role here?
Thank you, Christiana. Hello, everybody. I'll introduce myself, José Lopez. I'm energy efficiency lead within the energy division at AFD. And I'm particularly in charge of developing dedicated tools to expand AFD activities in the field of energy efficiency. You raise the point from where could come the needed finance to support investment in the green building sector, in particular in the situation of international crisis. Certainly, development bank could play a significant role in that sector. Alongside, I would say, alongside private sector. This is a very important always to keep in mind that the real market transformation should involve private actors. Development bank could provide the additional resources, the initiation of a process, but at the end, the transformation will rely on the private sector. As you may know, and you said some words about it, Christiana, AFD is very committed in promoting energy efficiency in the countries where it operates. And since 2018, energy efficiency is a key pillar of the AFD energy strategy. So we are really putting resources and efforts to expand this sector of activity in our countries of operation. We have already different tools to promote and support energy efficiency investment in our countries of operation, in particular through SUNREF or TFSC, which is a SUNREF, but which incorporates also finance from the Great Green Climate Fund. We have the PIB. You mentioned it in your introductory words. PIB program for energy efficiency in the building sector, and we have also other policy loans dedicated to energy efficiency.
Jose, would you like to use some slides?
Yes. You don't see my slides.
I see you.
Oh, I'm deeply sorry.
Never mind.
I'm deeply sorry. So let's check. Let's share, and I assume the one is this.
Yes, it's coming.
Okay.
Fine.
Deeply sorry about it.
In presentation mode.
Yeah. So what I said is that we are already operating with different tools. I said SUNREF, PIB, etc. We have also set a minimal objective when supporting projects with a building component. We want at least to achieve 20% of energy savings in these projects, unless we consider that we have no additionality. So it's very important for us at least to improve the quality of the buildings we are financing in different sectors by 20%. And if we consider our track record portfolio, we are on average today close to 30% of savings, but this reference value has to be increased step by step. But we have in mind that at least all our portfolio will incorporate green buildings and, if possible, labelize green buildings. The first results of this policy we initiate 2 years ago are quite promising, but we have to do more. We are now able within AFD to screen almost 1.2 billion euro value projects. We are supporting in the different sectors where building construction or renovation are required in the different countries where we operate. From this 1.2 billion, we are with the PIB, the Program for Energy Efficiency. We are providing direct support and delivering through concrete energy efficiency investments on a portfolio value of 600 million euro per year. Our goal for 2022 is to reinforce our team, our energy efficiency team, and to be able to screen and to drive the energy efficiency quality of every building, every project where we have buildings in our AFD portfolio. It's a quite challenging target. Maybe just a slide to present the most emblematic program we are managing within the energy division, the PIB, the Program for Energy Efficiency in Buildings, and is really building on the same logic as the logic that was presented previously by Rusmir. Means that we are working at the institutional level, capacity building level, but also at project preparation and financing level. And this combination of efforts, simultaneous efforts, are providing very good results on field. I just remind that the program is being developed by AFD with GIZ, with the French also Agency for Energy Management, and with the within the umbrella of the GlobalABC. And I remember, Christiana, you already said that the financing comes from France and Germany. We are quite proud about this program, and the result is delivering, and we now are looking to expand the program. Sorry, I know that I was too long.
No. That's no. The question that I want to give to you as well is, since I interrupted everybody, sorry for that, but I think the next slide is very, very interesting because it shows the power of development banks, and I mean power, not real power, but financial power. And this is an envelope. When we have a look at it, if it could all go into green economy, and there of course is green buildings a big part of it, then we would really be able to tackle the climate crisis that we are currently facing. So here we would have the possibility really to have both crises going to solve in one, and now I maybe cite Michael Oppermann, who is coming next, because he has the slogan, to kill with one stone, 3 birds. It's maybe a little bit rough, but it is in fact the double, and he says the triple crisis that we are facing, because it's also a job crisis. We could really use the money that is available, and also private money, stimulate private money, use it mainly for green economy. So this is a message that we can give, and all the development banks should, and I understand AFD is one of the motors that wants to drive the development banks to just and mainly go into financing of green economy. So this would be a very good news. And you have some more slides. We could go into more deepness with the questions of the audience later on. But
Okay.
with this, I would like to ask Michael from the International Energy Agency. So we paint this picture of a country that has crisis, as we all countries face that. And we also see that there is the possibility, the financing possibility that could be used and should be earmarked for green economy and green buildings. And Michael, I would like to ask you to give us some facts and figures, because the construction is going on anyhow. If it's going on in green buildings, it would save us. It would save the world, maybe, if we can say that. But Michael, over to you, because you have the facts and figures.
Thank you very much, Christiana. And just going to share screens now. Should just take a moment. But as Christiana said, we've got the facts and figures to talk through the carbon challenge in buildings, also to talk through the technology required to achieve our decarbonisation goals. I'm also going to talk through what that investment could deliver in terms of investment opportunities in buildings and green buildings, as well as the jobs potential from that. And also, as a part of that, we'll talk through a little bit about policy advice on the practical, what governments can do to deliver successful economic stimulus programs for buildings. Okay, now, if that's up on screen, and I will get going. So,
sorry, Michael, we can't see your screen. You need to share it.
Okay, I thought I had. Apologies.
Yes, it's coming. And presentation mode, please.
Yes. What? Is that better now?
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. So the buildings and construction sector, as we all know, is critical to climate action. And this is highlighted in the IEA's recently published Energy Technology Perspectives 2020 report. The sector accounts directly and indirectly for around 30% of final energy use globally, including about 55% of global electricity consumption. To put this in some context, in 2019, CO2 emissions from fossil fuel combustion reached more than 33 gigatons, and the construction and operational phases of buildings account for around 37% of global emissions today. As you can see from the chart on the left here, the direct emissions from fossil fuel combustion in buildings for uses such as space heating, water heating, and cooking amount to about 3 gigatons of CO2 emissions in 2019. And the indirect emissions through electricity use and heat take the total to about 9.8 gigatons of CO2. In addition, the production of materials and energy used in the construction phase of buildings accounts for another 3.5 gigatons. You can see in the chart on the right that under the IEA Sustainable Development Scenario, CO2 emissions from buildings are expected to reach net zero in advanced and major emerging economies by around 2050, with the rest of the world to follow. And the GlobalABC's recently published Global Roadmap for Buildings and Construction, and the 3 regional roadmaps outline the key steps towards net zero buildings by 2050. So the good news is that the technologies required to drive the carbon reductions we need in buildings already exist today. You can see on the right-hand side here that 3/4 of these technologies are already mature or at early adoption TRL stages. On the left, you can see that the major cumulative greenhouse gas mitigation opportunities in buildings. Heat represents the largest opportunity with electrification and the rollout of heat pumps. Electrification in commercial heat can reduce the CO2 emissions relating to the heat demand by an average of 0.6 gigatons globally and annually, which is equivalent to all of Canada's CO2 emissions in 2019. For cooling, you can see that improvements in technological performance will deliver the lion's share of carbon mitigation after 2070. So I've talked briefly about the carbon reduction task and technology readiness, but what about investment and jobs? Investing in buildings can drive the economic recovery. The IEA Sustainable Recovery Plan, developed with the IMF and released in June this year, outlined a 3-year, $1 trillion a year plan to invest in clean energy to support the economic recovery. This investment is estimated to deliver a 3.5% increase in real GDP in 2023, above and beyond what would have happened otherwise. And buildings energy efficiency is at the heart of this plan. The plan allocates the second largest investment by measure into buildings efficiency. You can see this on the left with a $130 million a year investment on average over the 3-year plan. And this investment results in the largest job creation potential in the plan, which you can see on the right-hand side, with an average of 1.5 million jobs a year. Why? Because investment in energy efficient buildings is job intensive, delivering one of the highest returns on jobs per millions of dollars invested in the plan. We estimate that 9 to 30 jobs would be created for every $1 million invested in energy efficiency measures in the building sector, with similar numbers for retrofits and new buildings, which helps with both of those scenarios Christiana outlined earlier. Can we take this investment, jobs, and emissions reduction potential and mobilize it as a part of economic stimulus packages? We know of many of the advantages of an investment in green buildings. It's job intensive. Programs create local jobs distributed across countries and communities and delivers multiple benefits of improved energy security, better public services, health improvements, all while supporting clean energy transitions and climate action. So what can we learn from past stimulus programs from the 2009-10 financial crisis to help unlock the potential an investment in green buildings offers today is economic recovery? So firstly, we should consider shovel-ready options. Deep retrofits of government buildings can help deliver improvements to hospitals, schools, social housing, and offices. And we saw in Jose's presentation before that the AFD is looking at the way cross-sectoral and different goals for those sectors of health, education, etc., can deliver multiple benefits there of both the climate action as well as other portfolio and important social benefits. Many government agencies at both the national, state, or local level will have a pipeline of those projects ready to go awaiting funding, whether retrofits or new builds, and these offer up quick and easy wins. That also fits in with the Global Commission for Urgent Action on Energy Efficiency's recommendations that government should lead the way. We should also look to leverage existing programs, supercharging existing programs and leveraging their administration systems, contracts, guidelines, and delivery partners can help governments to deliver faster and safer programs. It offers governments the opportunity to get funding out the door quickly, to deliver job creation, and with lower program risks compared to fast-tracking a brand new program without staff, procedures, and structures in place. Which is a good segue into the next point, which is to standardize. Whether we're talking about contracts, designs for buildings such as social housing, or lists of approved technologies, standardizing can help reduce transaction costs and risks, and also make for a simpler customer journey to improve uptake and the ability of service providers to deliver that stimulus. We also need to look to set the right level of ambition. Sorry about that. We also need to look to set the right level of ambition. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Set energy efficiency requirements as high as possible while remaining realistic about considerations such as price, supply, and demand constraints. For example, it could mean adopting a staged approach to funding rounds, increasing the ambitions as different funding or auction rounds go ahead if required to address skills training or product supply constraints. Or alternatively, you could look to add scaled incentives to reward higher performance, but not to the exclusion of the main goals of an economic stimulus program of getting money out the door quickly. We also need to get the level of incentive right. It's important to find the right balance between a high enough incentive to drive program uptake without introducing significant program risks and creating boom-bust cycles as a part of that. So for example, program incentives that cover 100% of an upgrade or service may drive a really high level of uptake, but it could attract businesses intent on accessing government incentives over a goal and desire to deliver quality products and services and stay in the green building industry for the long term. This can expose the program, customers, and also the broader industry to unnecessary risks. Another point is to address regulatory barriers and seize on this opportunity. By that, I mean consider removing or simplifying unnecessary red tape to support a fast rollout of green building stimulus programs. So we've seen recently a number of countries announcing green and some more brown policies to pause regulation to speed up action as a part of stimulus. And in the clean energy side of things, we've seen some examples such as removing planning consent requirements for small-scale rooftop solar PV. These types of measures for green buildings could help fast-track investment. And last but not least, I wanted to mention the point about turning short-term impacts into long-term transformations. So governments can look to harness the investment from stimulus programs to lock in long-term changes through improvements to building energy performance codes and minimum energy performance standards. An evaluation of the US government's 2009-10 Recovery Act investment to boost the state energy program for funding delivered big results in this space. The building retrofits component of the program was found to have delivered immediate jobs and energy savings from year one when needed during the financial crisis and the years immediately following. But the modest or much smaller investment in improving and enforcing building energy performance codes helped to lock in savings and maintain and grow jobs for the 5 to 10 years following, dampening the boom-bust cycles often created with short-term stimulus programs and locking in the jobs, investment, energy savings, and greenhouse gas reduction benefits for decades to come. So that's all from me, Christiana, for now.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Michael. And I really liked some of your formulations, like level of ambition. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. This is such a nice sentence. I will really, really take it from you. I hope you allow me.
Yeah,
so I want to come back. You really very well summarized what can and should be done. Let's go back to our little country. And I made some notes from what I learned. So your proposal was have public buildings as a role model. Renovation of public buildings could be a first step. Have a look at social housing. This is very important also. This means you see the public, the government as a steering, and investment should come from the public side. And if you remember at the beginning, I asked Rusmir, so would you see the public or the private side more in the lead? And he said, well, both. I think Rusmir prepared also a slide where he showed some other incentives, how private sector could be stimulated a little bit more. Maybe it's now the best moment to have a look at this slide. Rusmir, if you manage to load your slide and could guide us a little bit through what incentives could be apart from something that is coming from government, like direct investments, or from development banks, as we saw in the Ukrainian example, where international development banks and donors gave financing to a governmental fund. But there is also other possibilities. Rusmir, are you ready to show us that?
Yes, happy to. And maybe I'll show it directly on our website because we have quite the plethora of context. And I prepared it for Colombia, but there seems to be a lot of folks from other parts of the world as well. So maybe this will be interesting for them to see. So on the example of Colombia, the government was giving a fiscal incentive. And you can see here that it went to exclusion of VAT and income tax deduction. But we know that many of our government clients, especially in emerging countries, just don't really have that type of financing, especially during now in COVID. And so we have mapped out a lot of these different examples, and I know many of them are going to show up on the GlobalABC website as well. For example, height bonus incentives for new construction in Peru have been really, really effective, and they do not cost the government any money. Actually, they bring money because the developer is selling more projects, more apartments, so they get a boost in tax credit. What we want to show to both our government clients and our finance clients is that this is not a theoretical exercise. IFC has gone through this around the world. We've done that mapping, and we have helped clients launch this. So this is, I'm showing it here from the edgebuildings.com website for the governments and also for the banks. And also for any of our development finance institution clients listening, we're also happy to walk through with you of all the different ways that you can do it, because for IFC, green buildings have become one of the largest investment sectors. We have now invested $6.5 billion of our own finance into this, and you can imagine IFC does about $10 billion a year. So as a proportion of our work, it's huge. So you can see here all of the different things that banks have done as well.
Just a little word, since you mentioned that, for IFC, the building sector is the biggest investment, if I understood well. One of the biggest. Fine. And very impressively, Michael showed in his slides that for the Sustainable Recovery Plan, the building sector as well is the decisive sector with the biggest potential. Michael, if I have that right in my mind, this was also the biggest. So it shows again that the building sector is really decisive. And as at the beginning I said, it's an economic powerhouse, and it is a very job intensive sector. So everything points towards this sector, and we really need to do something, and we really can do something, because this is the moment, economic crisis. Let's put investment into the building sector. And I think I would really advise everybody to go on this website. IFC has done on this Edge website. IFC has done a very good job to show what possibilities there are. And Rusmir already mentioned that we are currently, together with some colleagues from other institutions, we are collecting examples of nice programs. And of course, the Colombian example is one of those. The Ukrainian example is one of those good examples where we collected a kind of library. It is growing. We have now, I think, 5 examples already on the website of the GlobalABC. And I would like to ask Anna to maybe put in the chat, wow, here it is in the chat, you can see the link to the place where you find the examples that we collect. And, you know, we show how is it working in this country, what was the key success factor in this country with this kind of fund, because there are different possibilities. How can you set up a fund? And I would like at this moment also to invite everybody who is listening to post some questions. And I saw already there are some questions. And for example, if there is one to Rusmir asking about how did you define green buildings, I would like to ask Rusmir, maybe you could type this in, because it is a rather detailed question. And I would now, until we have other questions, I would like to ask Sviatoslav to maybe... Oh,
One
yes,
answer,
of course,
one
Rusmir.
answer, on the,
I
one answer
interrupted
on
you.
the definition. No, I think this is a really important one because what we saw as a barrier to market adoption is that there wasn't a common definition across different countries that governments, investors, and developers were using. And so it actually is key, and we have published this. We have a huge publication. I'll share a link in our Green Buildings report. And now that definition has been accepted by finance associations such as International Capital Markets Association. EU is now following it in their EU taxonomy. So that's a guide for European banks and others. And there are 3 criteria. The building must be certified. It is not enough to say you're green. There has to be a third party that proves that. It needs to have 20% reduction over the baseline, which is either national law or common practices. And it needs to be able to show quantifiably what those impacts are. So it actually is fairly simple, but then there are complicated details. And what we can do, again, investors, developers, governments, is we can help you reach that definition and use the certification as a proxy. So I wanted to bring that one up because that is, I think, a huge thing of bringing the market together.
Very important, absolutely very important. And well, the certification issue is maybe a bigger discussion that we could have in a separate webinar, because it might be that certification is a barrier for some private developers when it comes to housing, for example, because certification often we see with other buildings like offices and other buildings, but certification in residential and private buildings, it is not yet there. In Europe, we have energy performance certificates. This is something that is already since more than 10 years on the market. This is something on a lower level. It is not a real certification, it is lower level. So there are different possibilities to have really the proof that you have a green building, and this is the most important thing. So
well, let's say we've certified probably about 200 residential projects around the world. So again, even with homes, we invite you to work with us. I shared my contact information. We'd be happy to help anybody. We actually think our residential is the place to do it, and we can get it certified there as well.
And you have a very good tool, a very good tool. This needs to be underlined. Yes, so check out the IFC website, check out the website with the examples that we have collected. And by the way, a big thank you to the group with whom we collected the best practice examples of funds. It is the so-called finance work area of the GlobalABC. And there are international organizations like IFC, International Energy Agency, and so on, who are together with us collecting these examples, and DENA, the German energy agency. So just to name a few, and UNEP FI, by the way, our co-chair, Matthew, and our little country, and maybe Anna, you can show the future, how our little there is this stimulus, that there is support from technical support, because I remember the Ukrainian fund is very important to set it up in a clean and transparent process. Situation why this fund was so important for Ukraine, because they have a building stock that is in a very bad situation, and also because the energy bills were a burden to the residents and also the country. I think the key success of this Ukrainian fund was transparency. Several international organizations helped the Ukrainian government to technically set up this fund. Brought some examples with him And something that we could have a look at now. I think it is examples about deep renovation, but also technical heating renovations. Maybe you could show us and walk us through that. Vyacheslav, are you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm still on the line, but so I can hear some kind of interruption in your speech. Sorry, Christina.
Yeah,
Anyway,
never mind. Please, the examples if you want. If you...
Just a moment. I'm trying. Okay. Do you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So just I would like to present some real examples of renovation of buildings, which we had at the initial stage of our program. It was a portion of so-called first movers. It's a 15 of projects, which a significant part of them already renovated, and this was made together with IFC, GIZ, and Uker Gas Bank and Energy Efficiency Fund. So currently we can present a real result of such program. So as I mentioned, there are two type of packages providing to the end customers currently by the fund. It's a comprehensive package, really significant, with significant budget renovation, including heating of the walls, and light package. Light package just focusing on some essential energy efficiency measures which could be taken by homeowners association wanted to start energy renovation of their buildings. And what you can see that such kind of package is quite energy efficient. So it's a real savings which was reached by this building. For the package B is 53%. It's quite big, even bigger comparably to our expectation. Average expectation for such kind of packages is approximately 40% of energy savings. Regarding light package, it's quite lower energy savings comparably to package B. 36 is extremely good, but average savings is approximately 25%. And I'm presenting the slide. It's a real cases taken from the First Movers program of our project, and you see significant numbers of energy savings presented. The average volume of project for package B is approximately 6.27 million of hryvnias. For light package, depending on the building, and for light package, it's approximately from 700 to 1.5 million of hryvnias. It's taken into account the average income of population in Ukraine, so these amounts are quite big for them. Anyway, the first movers taken this exercise and really have a good experience, I would say.
Thank you very
have
much.
Some questions, specific questions regarding the financing, regarding the situation in Ukraine, in the markets, and what we've done just to introduce our program to the end users, and what kind of support we provided to make our program more popular in society. So, if you want, okay.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Just for the audience to know, the slides, all the slides that were presented, really explain that were not before, you can find on the website, where you also can find the best practice examples of stimulus programs. Please don't hesitate if you have immediate questions now to put your questions in the chat here on the right-hand side. And I wanted to mention also these examples that we collected. These are examples of programs that already started, and some are already running since a few years. And the German example is maybe one of the longer running examples that we collected. We don't present it today, but you can find it in the best practice examples. It is running since more than 10 years. And I noted from the figures, Germany published figures where they said investment, €1 triggered an investment between 10 and 20 euros in the market. So you can see how such a construction or renovation program is really building economic volume. And I think they also have some job information on the best practice. Maybe Vyacheslav, you could mute yourself because I hear myself as an echo. Thank you very much. So the examples are very interesting if you want to have a look at. And as I said, these are examples of already running programs. And our colleague José, he also had a slide, but he didn't show that, but you can find it then in the presentations. There are already in the making some examples that we are developing in our program PEEP, in the Program for Energy Efficiency in Buildings, the French and German program that we do together. These are programs, for example, in Morocco and Vietnam that we are currently helping to set up. So we see, and specifically also the German government is interested that we are helping governments to, at this moment of economic crisis, to establish together with countries such energy efficient building programs, because as we heard today, the building sector is really key. It is key for climate, but it is also key for economic recovery. And Michael, maybe you can show again the slide where you showed for the Sustainable Recovery Plan, where you showed that the building sector is key. And maybe you can say 1 or 2 words about this sustainable Sustainable Recovery Plan. I think that it is the correct name. Maybe you say 2 or 3 sentences about it. I think you mentioned in June it was established, right, by the EIA.
Correct. Sorry, I'm just getting my video back. Don't have the privilege to share the slide yet again. But the Sustainable Recovery Plan was a collaboration between the IEA and the IMF, published in June, where we came up with our own hypothetical plan of how we could drive a clean energy recovery. So it's a $1 trillion a year plan over 3 years, from 2021 through to 2023. And the idea is that $1 trillion is a combination of public investment and leveraged private investment as well. Really, it's a broad reaching plan. It looks at everything from renewable energy through to investment in network infrastructure required for a clean energy transition, looking through to transport and electric vehicles and charging infrastructure, industrial energy efficiency and the role of batteries in that as well, for both energy storage and vehicles, as well as hydrogen for industry. And as a part of that, while the biggest investment wasn't in buildings efficiency, the biggest jobs outcomes were in buildings energy efficiency for both new builds and retrofits. So really the engine room of the plan that helps supports the holistic approach. And part of that is because those projects can be ready to go. So I suppose on your question earlier, I wouldn't say government investment is the only way forward, and it's definitely important to bring the private sector along to grow scale. But governments looking for quick wins can look at their own options where you don't need as detailed program design for government infrastructure and government investment projects as you may for a public facing type program.
Okay.
It's faster and easier to run a tender or lift approval caps like I know Denmark did on local government expenditure to get some quick wins there on things they were waiting to do but were restricted on doing beforehand.
Okay, so the technical problems are to mention, since you have this very nice sustainable recovery plan and the global Alliance for Buildings and major points and fields for energy efficiency in buildings and current are a very, very nice frame when we go to I just wanted to mention that. And with that, all our presenters with the very good examples. And I would also thank our problems to finalize our event today. And thank you very much for hosting us.